after we have some ideas and opinions from students and from the teacher perspective, now we have asked another teacher who has been teaching the TOEFL language tests himself for 4 years. Let's come here and see what his opinions on Chinese studies, overseas trade, and what the changes happening nowadays. And also, he is a father himself, and as a perspective of parents, what is his opinions on sending his child or his little child to study overseas? And welcome to our show. And actually today I want to talk about this Chinese study overseas trade. And firstly, you as an English teacher, what changes have you noticed in this kind of training?
Actually, in China, I would say the tendency is becoming younger. More and more young students are trying to study in America because they are eager to receive the higher quality education in America. And as everybody knows, American education is quite different from China. And actually, more and more parents, they are regarding that their children should receive high quality education in America, and they hope their children could become more competitive, considering situation that in China there have been more college graduates and they find it pretty hard to find jobs, and the parents anticipate the children can be more competitive with American study experience.
So what is the age distribution of the students you are teaching? How old are they?
Most of my students are college students. Part of them are high school students, and to my surprise, some of my students are junior high school students. That's really astonished. And I would say, because just as I mentioned, the tendency is becoming younger, and I can feel what current parents feeling. Because I have become a father, and I know, if I was given a choice between studying in China or studying in the United States, I would say I'm more willing, or I'm more inclined to send my kid to the States to receive education. If possible, I would send them to receive a primary school education.
So as a father, you would prefer overseas education, and actually you have said you have being a teacher for about 4 years.
Yeah.
And what are the differences between nowadays and maybe 4 years ago?
As for me, from the angle of my working experience, I would say education itself is quite important. I don't mean in China you receive Chinese kind of education is not good, but I really think what do you access, or what kind of perspective you can approach really matters to you. In the United States, you can access many different kinds of things, such as you can be exposed to the cultural diversity. You can be exposed to the pretty renowned professors, and they have their insightful perspective in their major or in their affairs. And for college students, what are really important is not just textbooks. I mean, the experience is quite important, and what those professors in the States, they do a very good job in passing all students on experience.
So as parents, actually we know study overseas would be very, very expensive, and as a parent you would think it is a well-worth investment, and but maybe some students would say, well, it's too expensive.
Yeah, I would say it's too expensive, but considering the situation in China, especially in Beijing, you want to receive education in Beijing, you have to invest really a lot in your child.
Okay.
For the
education investment.
Yeah, for the houses, you have to buy an expensive house, and I would say I'd rather choose to spend this kind of money in investing my children's education in the States.
So can we say that with the rapid development of China's economy, and there are more and more parents or students have motivation to study abroad? Actually, how much of how many money you would like to spend according to your salary to put it?
When considering the investment and the return, I don't think parents are expecting to get more return because education itself is a big problem. And what parents are trying to get is their children can become a mature guys in the society, people in the society, and they have the right outlook view, and they have the right outlook in values and morals. And in China, what you can get is the fierce competition, the huge pressure from the society. You are really trying to find a good job. That's exactly what the purpose of you to go to college, right? Yeah.
Okay, and actually let's transfer our role from the parents to a teacher. And for a teacher, have you ever heard about as you are teaching language courses, and have you heard about some cheating phenomena in Chinese language classes?
Yes, of course. I've heard about that, and it's really sad news. And I think part of the reason is that many training schools are trying to make huge profits. So they cheat on the exam firstly, and then they give students a chance to cheat. So I think the training school should be on punishment.
Okay.
Second of all, I would say so many students they're in a rush. They want to go to America. They want to receive a higher.
To be
successful.
successful.
Too much to rush to successful. They want to be successful, and they do not consider the negative consequences. Actually, it's really
serious.
It's really serious. It's a big problem to their credit, right?
Actually, plagiarism in Western system is very, very serious problem.
It's a serious problem, and the native students also cheat on the exam also.
Okay, and first, the last question is so what do you think of this kind of international interaction? From many Chinese students are going abroad, and also some foreign students are coming China as well.
First of all, I would say it's a good thing. From the government's angle, it's a good thing because it can promote the economic globalization. And actually, more foreigners they are willing to stay in China to make a living. That means China's economic prosperity has given them chances to live in China. And for another thing, many Chinese students they are willing to study in America, or they are trying to live in America. That means, except for those students, because they are so wealthy. I mean, another part of students because they are hardworking, they are perseverant, they're not afraid of meeting values. And they are trying to make a difference in their life. And actually, for those students, I would say it's good news because they are so confident, right? That's what education is trying to cultivate the students. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe that's about today's topic. And thanks so much, and thanks for your precious time. Thank you. Okay, from Andy's perspective, nowadays, many Chinese students are trying to study overseas to acquire more opportunities and to be more successful, especially in the job markets. And for her perspective, as a parent, he would be willing to spend this kind of investment to, for education, this kind of education investment to make her children, to make his child a better future. And also, he thinks today's cheating phenomenon in today's language tests would be blamed to those training agencies who firstly train themselves. So from his perspective, students as well as those training agencies should do well to avoid this kind of cheating phenomenon.